Welcome to Gamma Recaps. Today we're going to explain a movie named Revolver. It is released in the year 2005. Jake Green is a very successful gambler. 2 years ago he was released after 7 years of prison. When he came back to the gambling world he didn't have a penny, but he worked his way up and is now one of the most successful men in the gambling business. His brother Billy also worked with him, who is also his assistant. In the first scene, Jake and Billy enter a casino that belongs to Dorothy Macha. Since Jake is famous for always whining in gambling, so the dealer denies him a table. When Macha gets to know of his arrival, he insists Jake be brought to him. Jake has to get in an elevator to reach the Macha, but after almost many years of solitary confinement he's developed claustrophobia and afraid of using elevators. A voice in his head stops him that he shouldn't do what he doesn't want to do. Jake hears this voice often and is driven by it. He associates the voice to himself and his success. He share a heated conversation from Macha about being the best in the business before letting a game of chance decide the results. In the first round Jake loses, which gives Macha a sense of false victory. In the following round, for more money, Jake wins, much to Macha's displeasure. After Jake leaves, Macha orders his finest assassin, Sorter, to kill Jake since he's turning into a threat to his gambling business. Meanwhile, Jake loses consciousness while leaving the casino and has to be taken to the hospital. The doctor ran some tests on him and asked him to consult the lab later to get the test results. Pick up fire. The first shot killed until a stranger named Zach saves him. Looks like he left the note on the doorstep. He takes Jake to his partner Avi, who knows everything about him. Jake thanks them for their help and is about to leave, but Avi told that he got to know from hospital reports that Jake has a rare blood disease that will kill him in only 3 days. The duo promises to protect him from Macha and find out a cure for his disease if he hands over all the money he has made from gambling for the past 2 years. After confirming that the doctors have no answer to his illness, Jake reluctantly gives them his all hard-earned money. On the other hand, the assassin Sorter is in anger because it's his first time missing a target. Macha urges him to do better the next try, threatening his life. Sorter also hears a voice in his head mocking him for developing feelings. Somewhere else, Avi and Zach reveal that they are loan sharks who are about to lend the money they collected from him. Jake is in no place to argue as he accompanies them to their venture to the debtors. His inner voice gets more strong by the time pass by when suddenly Avi asks him about his history with Macha. A flashback shows us the time before Jake was in jail. Macha had 3 right-hand men named the Yetis who did all his dirty work for him. Jake was a local gambler in the streets until one day the Yetis asked to be the card man for Macha. He went to play a game on Macha's behalf and won. Everything was going well until his opponent finally insulted him, started a firefight. Macha lost money and his people in the aftermath of the shooting, so the Yeti killed Billy's his wife and threatened to kill Jake's niece as well. Soon Jake is arrested and imprisoned. Macha elsewhere, trying to make a deal with the rich but dangerous businessman Sam Gold. Gold is clearly invisible and does all his work to women. Representative Lily Walker, she warns Macha of the consequences if he disappoints Gold or tries to play him. Deal involves importing illegal powder. Macha is stoked to be able to work with someone like Gold, mostly for the money he's about to make. In the next scene, Jake is telling Avi and Zach about the time he served in prison. He was given a choice to either serve 14 normal years time or 7 years in solitary confinement. He chose the second option and was put into a tiny room with 2 tiny rooms on each side. One of them was accompanied by a con artist while the other one held a chess expert. He never saw or talked to them during the 5 years they were together. They communicated through a communal book that they shared. Being a chess expert and a con artist made the duo extremely smart and dangerous when they worked together. Jake learned everything there is to becoming a perfect con artist through the secret messages they shared. However, he could never fully grasp the depth of their conversation. During his 5th year, 2 prisoners planned to break out of prison and agreed to take Jake with them, but the next morning they were gone, leaving Jake behind. The police couldn't find them anywhere, almost as if they evaporated into thin air. After being released, he found out that the 2 escaped convicts stole all the money he had hidden on the outside. The only thing they left was a message that said you can only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. As time passed, Jake used the tricks he learned from them to become the gambling king he is now. The tricks always worked and made him a lot of money. At present, Avi and Zach listen to the story but do not react. They claim that they have to do an important task next. The task is to steal the powder from Macha that he was supposed to supply to Gold. They complete the mission easily, sabotaging Macha's deal with Gold and getting Macha in huge trouble. The situation forces him to ask a rival crime boss Lord John for help. Lord John agrees to sell them another batch of powder for double the market price. Desperate to save himself from Gold's wrath, Macha accepts the deal, but the matter gets worse when Avi, Zach, Jake and his people barge into the hotel where they're making the deal before Macha's henchmen can get the powder they make. Everyone fall unconscious and steal the goods. The rival gang leaders Macha and Lord John think that each other are responsible for the treachery. They begin to conspire against each other, leaving the true culprit free. In the following scene we see Avi and Jake playing a match of chess. Using the tricks he learned in prison, Jake defeats him every time. He also teaches them the basic rules of con art, although the duo doesn't seem to need it. Following that, he's taken to a debtor's place as per usual, but this time he's asked to shoot a man who couldn't pay the interest on time. The voice in his head asks Jake to do the job, claiming that it's not a big deal, but for the first time in his life he goes against the voice and refuses to shoot. He even fires at Avi when the man tries to fire, but it turns out that the gun didn't have bullets. He's knocked out with a blow on the back of his head. When he wakes up the next morning, he is back in bed. Jake is confused as to why they left him alive, what they want from him, and why they're tagging him along. It is now the 4th day since the last health reports. He goes to the doctors for a follow-up and is informed that he was misdiagnosed. Following that, he goes straight to Avi and Zach, determined to get answers. The voice in his head tells him that the duo is playing games with him. To Jake's surprise, Avi seems to have heard the voice too. Avi states that the voice in his head is pretending to be him, but it is not. The voice is his opponent disguising himself as a friend. As per the rules of a perfect con, it is revealed that the wealthy businessman Sam Gold, who everyone fears, is not a real person. He is the voice in Jake's head that has been dragging him down with the false sense of accomplishment. In reality, Sam Gold is a metaphor camouflaged as fear, ego, and evil that resides in every person's brain. Jake left the prison but has been imprisoned by Sam Gold ever since. After Jake registers that he's been played by the voice, he goes to war with himself to oppose it. The voice tells him to end everything, most importantly his biggest enemy, Macha. He goes to Macha's place at midnight and begs him for forgiveness, as opposed to what the voice tells him. The mental battle is intense, but Jake doesn't let his pride win and apologizes. Macha, on the other hand, is battling his own Sam Gold. He is losing the fight as the voice insists that Jake is apologizing to mock him. Jake leaves him wondering and enters an elevator by will for the first time. To his misfortune, the elevator stops midway, triggering his claustrophobia. The voice repeatedly tells him to give up, but Jake fights and defeats it. The elevator eventually opens and outside is Macha pointing his gun at Jake. Seeing that he's not scared of the gun, Macha loses his mind and lets the voice take over him. He doesn't realize who the real Sam Gold is and fears that he will come to get him. The next day, Jake makes a large donation to a charity in Macha's name, going against Sam Gold one more time. Macha is confused when the news makes the media, but happily takes the credit and public acclaim. But then he is informed that his deal with Sam Gold was sabotaged by Jake and his people. Upon learning about the true culprit, he sends his men to find and kill him. The gangsters in turn find Jake's brother Billy and niece Rachel at his home. They torture Billy and are about to abduct Rachel when the assassin sorter finally gains wisdom as Jake did. He does the right thing and goes against all of Macha's men, but at last he is killed by the surviving man who abducts Rachel and takes her to Macha. Meanwhile, Jake is taken to Macha's casino by Avi and Zach. He plays chess against Avi and realizes that Avi could have won any time he wanted and was just pretending to be bad gamer. When he thinks deeply, Jake reveals that the mysterious duo are the prison inmates who betrayed him 2 years ago. The guys have finally fulfilled their promise to break him out of prison. The only difference is that the prison isn't physical but the prison of his own mind. Avi and Zach also disclosed that they did not help him because they liked him, but because they are him. Like Sam Gold, as his fears, they are his wisdom and his higher self. In the last scene, Jake goes to Macha, who is holding his niece hostage. He has both batches of powder that they stole and is ready to give them back. However, Macha doesn't seem to want them anymore. Even he doesn't know what he wants, as the voice has taken complete control over his mind and body. He puts the gun on Rachel's head and is infuriated when Jake remains calm. The Sam Gold inside Macha screams in rage that turns into fear when he realizes that the businessman Sam Gold will kill him soon. Macha cannot comprehend that the return of the powder batches means he can be saved. He panics and shoots himself, letting Sam Gold win at last. Hope you like the movie. Please like, subscribe and share.